Hey there, I'm Mark, and I'm here to give a tutorial of Protoboard, which is an app for designing hardware systems and prototypes with the help of AI and real-time validation tools. Today, I have a project open, which is an FRC robot, which all of these are competitive robotics components that you would typically find on a robot like that. And I'm using it as an example project because it showcases well Protoboard's capabilities. The first thing you should know about Protoboard is this canvas. The canvas is where all of your parts and harnesses, which are these lines, reside, and represents the hardware system that you're working on. While you're using the app to pan around, if you are on a Windows computer, you just right click or middle mouse button click if you're on a mouse. And if you're on a Mac, then you will, I guess, need to determine how to do a right click action because your left click is the drag. Or you can click this little button down here to toggle drag mode, and now I can drag with any of those buttons that I just mentioned a second ago, including the main mouse button, and I can go back to selection mode to do the select. Additionally, you have some other tools down here that you can explore if you'd like. If you are somewhere random, then you can always click this frame button and your project will come back into frame. At the top, you will see we have a header bar, which gives you the name of your project. You get a star, which shows you whether or not your project is saved. And you have a little menu over here where you can choose to create a new board, open an existing board off of your computer, which I can show you that. So I have a bunch of example boards. I could open any one of these. They're just JSON files. You can save them to your computer. And once you're in a project, you can either save it back to that file or do a save as to a new file. Let me go ahead and hit save. You'll notice that the star at the top goes away and my project is saved. Also in the header is a theme button. You can switch back between light mode and dark mode. All of the menus inside of our app are going to be responsive to both, so it is just your personal preference. I prefer dark mode. And you also have a user menu where you can go to the settings, which I'll get to in a moment. Back to the canvas, you'll notice that you have proto parts and harnesses. The harnesses carry the connection and represent the connection between multiple devices. You can move parts by clicking and dragging on them. You can also box select a few parts and move them all at once if you'd like to. The harnesses have little handles on them. You can move them by simply dragging the handle back and forth to reconfigure where that position is. Let's go over the inspector, which is this right panel. You'll notice it doesn't have anything in it until I click on a part. When I click on a part, then I can see the information about it, like what name it is, what type of part it is. I can actually change what type of part I'd like to swap out here if I'd like to. This right menu will actually show you what connections you have to other devices. You can see that there are two connections right here. One's yellow and one's green. You see the yellow and the green right here. Protoboard has a full validation system. What you have to understand about that is basically if these connections are green, that means they're fully configured with, I guess, pin that you'd like to set up. For example, for this power, you need a positive and a ground. You can set that up here. For this Ethernet port, it's yellow because it doesn't have a pin selected. So all you have to do is down click to the one that you want, and you'll notice that this connection's still yellow. That's probably because on the other side, now if I click on the edge itself, the harness, I am actually inspecting the connection. So that pin I just set up is right here. I can set up the other pin on the other side right here, and you should see that connection go green. And I can click this connect button, which just represents that I'd like to link these two. You can click on any of these interfaces and inspect the connections. Some of them will have multiple wires, like a power connection between them. Protoboard is what is called a single line diagram. So every connection, no matter if it's one wire or a pneumatic hose, or if it's something with maybe three wires like this brushless three-phase, you'll actually have the number of connections represented inside of this one connection. And if the connection, the harness, is red, That means that there's some incompatibility issue that Protoboard has recognized between these two parts. I'm not sure what that is right now, but Protobot would be able to tell us, and you could also, in the inspector, if you click on one of these parts, see the data sheet for both of them to maybe find where that mistake is. We're working on building the design rule checker. They'll actually tell you why the connection is red. But right now, Protobot, which is our little AI I'll go over in a second, would be able to tell you why. Additionally, if you click on a part, you can actually edit its code. So every part inside of Protoboard is just a JSON file that represents the interfaces that it has and the connections that it has between them, or sorry, the pins that are required for that connection. And this is for either the electrical domain or mechanical domain or pneumatic domain. So that means that you can represent any type of connection between devices inside of Protoboard, whether it's electrical, networked, mechanical, pneumatic, etc. You can also download it to your computer if you'd like to save this part definition and its information. But you can also it's included in your project when you save it to your computer. I think that about covers the inspector, at least the important parts of it. By the way, you can dismiss the inspector by clicking here. And when I click on a part, I can either reopen it, or if I double click the part, that will also reopen the inspector. Let's go over how to create a new connection. So for example, we have this power distribution, and let's see if all of our devices have power. Looks like it, but we'll redo this power connection right here. To create a harness, which I just deleted this by pressing delete or backspace, all you have to do is hover near the edge of a component, click and drag to the other edge of the component, and now you've got a harness. It's going to come in as gray if it's undefined because you haven't chosen what type of connection you would like between these two devices. And I can select that right here. So I'm going to do power input to the high current output right here from the power distribution panel to the motor controller. And then, yeah, like before, like I said, all you have to do is sort of configure these guys, these connections, and your connection will go green. So that's great. That's about everything I think that I'd like to cover for the canvas. And hopefully you understand how to do this process manually. But a lot of people would rather leave it up to an agent to build. We took inspiration from all of these coding agents like Claude Code or Cursor, or you might see GitHub Copilot in VS Code itself. And we built our own called Protobot. With Protobot, which can be summoned and closed by just clicking the Protobot icon, you can just give it the project that you'd like it to build, and it will go through and search our library for parts to see if it can find any parts, right? Then it will add them, place them on the board. It will update the board name and description. Basically anything that the user can do, Protobot can also do. I can ask it, like I said before, why is the connection between the SparkMax and the Neo motor incompatible? And I can ask that question and it will answer. Now, one thing also to know is that you have a model selector down here so that you can choose any of the models that we have available. We have, for example, Anthropic AI models. We have the OpenAI ChatGPT models. And then our favorite and default right now is this GLM5 because it is very cost effective. But you can choose a different model if you'd like one of the others. The only thing to note is that Protobot does run off of energy credits that we have. And depending on how many you have, your battery up here will show the percentage of Protobot that you have left to speak to before you need to pay for more usage, because AI does cost money, and we have some plans and some recharge battery packs that you can purchase to get more AI usage if you'd like. In the future, we are working on you being able to bring your own AI to the system, such as if you already pay for Claude or ChatGPT, there will be a way for you to connect that to Protoboard. But anyways, I'm going to use GLM5 and ask why that connection is incompatible, and Protobot will come up with an answer for me. While Protobot's answering, I can explore some of these other views, and Protobot will still be working. For example, this is the Plan tab. This is where you can assign a name for your project. You can even add concept images if you'd like for how the project is going to be built. We're working on a feature where you can generate images for this project yourself if you'd like, but here's a real-world image of one of these robots that I was speaking about for FRC bots. You can add a description, and then one thing that we're working on is for you to be able to add requirements for your project so that both you, your teammates, and the AI can read these and confirm whether or not the system passes these requirements or not. And that's partially what we're working on this validation menu for. Right now it's a little bit limited, but in the future you should be able to see all of your requirements, whether or not the project is passing, and you will also be able to view the DRC problems with the red connections over here. So Protobot is actually thinking and running tools, which you'll be able to see up here what it's thinking about as it's thinking. And whenever it chooses to run a tool, it's going to, for example, inspect the harnesses right here. And also it can look at the code behind the parts, just like we can with that menu I was showing you earlier. And it's going to go ahead and read that and eventually come up with an answer for us. And you'll notice that I've abused about 3% of Protobot for this action right here. So this is something, I guess, just to be wary of, is which model you're using, how smart and how much energy it consumes. Which our energy is not representative of actual energy that it uses in real life, but it actually does work that way if you think about it. In real life, the smarter models are going to spend more energy than the dumber ones. So anyways, let's talk about the library, which is how you yourself can actually add parts without having to interact with the AI. And that's a big thing we wanted to do, was interacting with Protobot is completely optional. You can use the app fully without needing to use Protobot. It's just an addition. You can go ahead and search for a part right here. Like, for example, I can look up the Arduino, and you'll see all of the Arduinos that we have in our project, as well as it'll also show you Arduino alternatives, such as other microcontrollers or things that are related to the Arduino ecosystem. Those types of parts should populate whenever you look up something like this. But yeah, so let's go ahead and add a part. Again, I can view its data sheet by clicking on this button and read more about the part before I decide whether or not this microcontroller is good for me or not. For example, I can look at the pinout diagram, but Protoboard itself sort of does also serve as a pinout diagram once you know how to use it. To add it to the project, all I have to do is click and drag, and now the part's placed. Got the part right there. I can browse for more parts if I'd like. There are many different ones that you'll find here. For example, like here's a temperature sensor, a BME 688 temperature sensor I can see. And as I add parts to the project, we have this other view where you can actually see the types of parts that are in your project. So all of the ones that are here and the ones that I just placed are going to be in here as part types that you can actually just grab. Instead of going to the library, you can actually just grab these from your project and place additional ones of them if you'd like. Between these two parts, I can configure it like I did before. I can summon the inspector, and if you have a larger computer than me, then you'll be able to see more of your diagram. Otherwise, you need to close your inspector when you're not, or your panel when you're not using it. And I can use looks like I squared C between these two devices. So this is a really easy way just to quickly tell what type of connection you need to do here. And you notice that on the Arduino, I was using A4 and A5. Those two pins are actually also capable of being used, for example, for the analog inputs. So if I unassign them, you'll notice I have more analog inputs available to me. right? And if I used one of them for one of the analog inputs, I can no longer use it for I2C. So if I configure things in here, basically I can try to figure out a pin configuration that works and generates a working solution. Like I said before, with the pinouts of all of the pins that we have in the project, we can see how many we have left. And in the interface view, we can see whether or not we can configure more. Like these analogs, I think, can also be used as digital inputs and digital outputs. So whatever the pin itself is capable of, you can select it for that purpose in here if you'd like. So in this case, the digitals would make more sense to use the D pins, but if I use D0, you'll notice now I can't use UART because with UART, you need to have the D0 pin available to you. Or you can basically add a transmitter receiver, or if you want to do the full transceiver interface, you need to have both a transmitter and a receiver pin. So I'll have to switch to something like D3. That frees up the ability to do UART. And this is very nice. This is a very nice interface to be able to view how your connections will work and whether or not you're overloading your device pins with too many connections. Again, I can box select and just delete. All of them will delete. I can also undo with Control Z. And we also have the ability to copy and paste. So all of the normal actions that you'd expect when you copy and paste, then all of the settings that you have on these devices will carry over. So yeah, that's the library view. That's how you add and remove parts from your board. If you'd like to actually view the source code for these, you can actually go and look at that. We have all of our source code in GitHub, and this is completely open. Anybody can add more parts if you'd like. We have all of them here, all available to look at. And if you'd like to open a pull request to add more parts, then that is totally available to you as well. Okay, fun stuff. Looks like Protobot has been thinking for a while now. And yeah, so I asked why the problem was occurring, and it looks like Protobot is just going to go and completely fix everything. The interface connection is created, but we need to allocate resources. I found the issue. The function links were created successfully. The system is reporting incompatible. Incompatible protocol requires output, cannot connect to input. It's actually false positive. Should be able to connect. So it's actually finding that there's a bug in the system. And if there's a bug in the system, then Protobot should be able to figure that out. And if there's a problem with the part, so for example, looks like this Neo motor has a problem that it found. If it finds problems, then it can actually rewrite the component in order to make it work, to force it to work. Or if it's a library part, then it can raise an issue, and the Protoboard team, will actually go and look to see if we need to make a fix or what's basically happening. But you should be able to ask Protobot. Protobot can look at the data sheet and tell you whether or not they're supposed to be compatible or not, which between these two devices it says that they are, but that our system is having a problem. Okay, finally, the purchasing view, the bill of materials. This is where you can actually go and configure where you'd like to buy these parts and come up with your own sources. If you find it online or something, you can do that. Protobot very soon will have the ability to go and do research and find these parts, where to buy them for you as well. But basically, the bill of materials will show you how much these parts will cost, which in this case, this project is very expensive, how many are on the board for you. And then if they come in multiples, like if you have to buy 2 at a time, then this parts per pack will tell you that you need to buy 2 of them basically, which I don't think I have an example of that for this project. But if I look up, there's one part called the L298N, and I add that guy, we'll actually see the L298N comes with 2. So you're buying 2 of them. That's what total parts say. But one of them is actually not placed on the board. So the bill of materials will tell you, hey, you have to buy 2 of these, you're only using 1 of them, is that okay? And you could potentially find a different source that only sells 1 of them if you'd like to. Yeah, if there's not a supplier for a part that you're buying, like this can coder, you can actually click add. And if you go and look up a vendor, then you can add that. So like this is going to be sold by Rev Robotics. I would go find the link for where to buy this, how much it costs, if they come as multiple parts in one pack, what the vendor ID is, and then if you know if it's available or not, you can put that here. Parts that are affiliate links, like Amazon parts that we have, or if we have a partnership with somebody, this will come up as an affiliate link. That just shows you that we, Protoboard, do make a little bit of money by you buying it, but it doesn't cost more for you to buy it. It's just a referral program that we're taking advantage of. And that helps us develop the app and continue to make it better. Finally, once you're done sort of configuring your bill of materials, if there's any extra work you'd like to do, you could export it to a CSV file so that you can open it in Excel, or you can export as a PDF. And if you export as a PDF, you get a pretty nice looking visual PDF of your project that you can use with the sources from where to buy them. Actually, is there a link in the PDF? No link in the PDF yet, but the CSV does have that output. This is just if you want a nice visual of what your total project cost is going to be and how many parts and what parts you're going to be using. Okay, so that's about it. The only other thing that there is to mention is that you can go to your settings view and manage your profile, notification settings if you'd like updates from us to see the cool things that we're trying to work on, the Protoboard team is trying to work on, then you can update that here. Changing your password through reset email, all pretty standard stuff. And as well as the plan tab. So this plan tab actually shows if you'd like to use Protobot extensively, then for $10 a month, you can get 1,000 watt hours. And that's just, $1 is 100 watt hours is the conversion there. Pretty standard, easy conversion, I think, to understand. If you'd like to upgrade, if I'm on a free account, then there will be an upgrade button right here. So there you go. Now I'm on a free account that has a 0% usage because I've used 100% of the free tier, which is just 100 watt hours that you get for just signing up for the app. You get for free. Protobot will actually show you as you're going, oh, you have 0% battery. If you click on it, you can see your options for getting some more energy for Protobot, which obviously I recommend. This app has been very useful for me so far with my projects, and we're building this for ourselves and for anyone who wants to build hardware projects. So if you'd like to support us, upgrading to the Pro plan would be very much appreciated. If you'd like to see what you get in the Pro plan, we have our pricing page so you can see the free tier versus the Pro tier and everything. In the future, pretty soon we're going to be launching if you'd like to just one-time buy credits, that's going to be an ability as well. But that's about it. Thanks for listening to this tutorial. I hope that everything is a little bit understood. If you'd like to check out our main website, documentation, or if you'd like to submit an issue, there's this button down here, which will take you to our issue. And I'm fixing this one right now. And that's about it. Thanks for watching.